Hey guys, I just finished my PHP Basics video series, and before I get into the more intermediate stuff with actually using PHP and building a website with it, I wanted to do a crash course on MySQL. This is going to be a one video piece, but it is going to be a little bit on the lengthy side. At least that's what it was when I did it last time, and I screwed up. So. Uh, you're probably wondering why I have Calc open. And the reason why I have it open is because this is the best way that I know to explain to people what a database is. It's a collection of information and that is easily searchable and updatable and stuff like that, but a spreadsheet is the closest thing that I know of a hands-on application that everybody's familiar with or have at least seen at some point in their life. And the reason why I'm using this as an example is because this whole document that I have open would be considered my database. And each of the sheets that I have open here would be considered a table. And within a table, so inside of a database you have tables, and inside of a table you have records, each one of these fields. You have rows, which are records, so each one of these would be a record, and then you have, like I said, you have your fields. So with that in mind, the only thing that kind of well, I guess it doesn't really separate a spreadsheet apart from a database because you do have unique identifiers here. So this would be row 1, row 2, row 3, and really what you're doing is you're identifying this row by row 3 here, or the number 3. So keep that in mind, and we're just going to hop right into PHP. And the reason why I'm going to show you how to do things from the command line rather than through a nice graphical user interface like my PHP My Admin is because I think people tend to learn things better when it's shown to them in hard code rather than using a program to just click here and click there. And you're going to need to know that SQL code in order to update your program in the upcoming tutorials. So more hands-on stuff will be better. So with that in mind, we're just going to hop right into it. This is assuming that you already have XAMPP installed. And if you don't, I have a video on it, and I've also covered it in video 1 of my PHP series, so you can always go grab that and make sure that it's started. And once you have those two things going, then open a command line prompt and go find where your XAMPP folder is. It's usually in a root folder or the root directory of some drive. For me, it's the Z drive. And I'm just going to change directory into XAMPP. And those of you who don't know that much about command line navigation, CD is just to change directory, and to go back up one level, we just do a CD // and what that's telling me is from my current location, I want to go back one space. So that's how we do that. And from the XAMPP directory, we're going to go into the MySQL directory. And in here, we're going to go into the bin directory. And this is where the MySQL executable lives. And to start MySQL, or to get into the command line version of MySQL, we do MySQL tac-u. So we're saying for one of our parameters, I want to pass in my username. So tac-u root and tac-p. And tac-p is your password. If you leave it blank, it's going to prompt you for one, or if you want to enter one in manually, don't add a space after the p and type in your password like that. For some reason, when they added the tac-p, I don't know, they never added that space or accounted for that space. So you can always do that. I always tend to just do the tac-p and do a command line prompt for a password and enter it that way. But with the default installation of XAMPP, you don't have a password for your root user, so just hit enter, and then you'll be brought into the MySQL command line piece. So with that so now that we got MySQL going and we're at the command line MySQL console, we're going to look at the databases that we have available. So we're going to do show databases, semicolon. Always finish your commands with a semicolon in MySQL. Otherwise, you'll just get dropped down to a new line like that until you add a semicolon. So here I have quite a few databases. Chances are if you have a fresh installed, you're not going to have any, maybe one or two. The common ones that I can think of are the information schema and maybe MySQL, and that was it. But you can create a new database, which we're going to need one now anyways. So let's create one. So we'll do create database, and we're going to give our database a name. So I'm going to call it YouTube, semicolon, and hit enter. And this creates our database for us. We've created our database, but we can't use it yet. What we have to do is we have to tell MySQL, okay, I've created it, now I want to use it. And we do that by using the use statement. And so that is use in our database. So YouTube, semicolon, and you'll see that the database has changed. If we look at our table structure here, we're not going to have anything, and we can do that by show tables. So we get an empty set there. What we want to do is we actually want to create the database or the table for users. But in doing so, we get to pass in and we get to tell the table or give the table its structure. And doing that in the command line is a little intense. Most people opt to do it in a graphical user interface program or like a web program like the PHP MyAdmin. But I'm going to do it this way because if you ever go to do something like this with your PHP program, then you're going to need to know how to do or get the code for it anyways. So I think it's a good way, a good reason to learn to do this stuff. So to do a new table, we're going to do create table, give it a name. So we're going to call this one users, and now we actually have to set up our structure. And like I said, we're going to be using IDs in our table. I like to use just the name ID, at least for now, until you get comfortable with the way that the IDs work and the way that tables can be associated with each other. So I'm going to leave that at that. So int or ID, and we're going to give it a value of integer, and we're going to give it 5 character spaces. So theoretically, we could have 99,999 entries for our record. So, but this is the only time that we have to add any other parameters to our field, and that is because we're using this as our identifier or our index, really. So with that in mind, we have to set this as our primary key. And that's just saying basically this is going to be like our flag for our database. When we're looking for information, this is going to be like the go-to point for our information when we're pulling stuff. And then we're going to auto increment this so that way anytime that, I'm just going to finish typing this. Anytime we're trying to add stuff to this table, the ID is automatically going to be incremented to the next value. And that just helps alleviate some work on our end. So with that all done, now we can actually just start writing out our fields, which all of our fields are listed right here, and I'm just going to use those as is. So first, and I'm going to set it as text. Last, set that as text. Date of birth, I'm going to go lowercase with this. I try and keep the same structure for all of my fields, or the same case for all of my fields. Let's pass that in as text. Email, text. And password, I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. Password, I'm going to use a variable character or a varchar. And a variable character allows us to set a specific number of characters that can go into this field. For me, it's going to be 255, which is the maximum, but I want to make sure that I have enough space because I am going to be doing encryption on my passwords, which I highly recommend. if I do not recommend whatsoever that you ever put passwords in as straight text. It's so, I mean, if anybody were to ever get into your database, they could grab all the passwords, log in as all your users, and your whole system would be corrupt at that point. So you can always encode it or encrypt it, and that's one added level of security. But if they're getting into your database to begin with, then you have bigger problems than them getting your password. So next in line is our logged in value. So we'll do logged in underscore in. And this one, I'm going to give it a value of integer and set it to 1. And the reason why I'm using an integer, 0 is going to be no, you're not logged in. 1 is yes, you are logged in. And my access level, I'm going to give that a value of integer and give it 2 places. So that way we could have up to 99 different groups or access levels. So now that is pretty much it for creating our table. I'm going to hit enter and our table is now created. So now we can do select star from table. So we're selecting absolutely everything from our table. Can't do table, I'm going to do users. So we're selecting everything from users, but we're getting an empty set because we haven't added anything to our table. So let's go ahead and do that. With that, to add something to our table, we use the insert command, and we do insert into users. So we're putting something into a table, and then we have to give the fields that we're trying to populate. So we're going to do first, last, date of birth, email, password, logged in, and access. And the reason why we're not using ID is because remember when we set up the auto increment piece here, it's automatically going to assign that value. It starts off at 0 to begin with, and then once we've added something in, it's going to get set to 1. So the next piece is we get to pass in our values for this field or for this record. And to do that, we actually have to use values and in parentheses pass in our value. And each piece has to be in quotes. So values in quotes, we're going to do first name, so mine is going to be Nicholas. Last name, Hewitt. Then we have, what was it, date of birth? Yep. And date of birth, I don't want you guys to know mine, so I'm going to do 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. But it could be anything. And the last email, so we'll do nicholas@hewittmediadesigns.net. Our password, and for this one I'm going to be using the built-in Mysql SHA-1 encryption level. PHP, you can do it straight in PHP as well. This to me is a very secure way of encrypting your passwords. Most of the people that I've talked to, this is what they use. Other people use MD5, but the MD5 encryption level, I've heard people have found ways to crack it. So I don't know, if people are saying that it can be cracked, I tend not to trust it, and I try and find something that really sounds a little more secure. But those of you who use it, I'm sure that there are other ways that you can make it a little bit stronger, which I'll cover down the road once we get into our program. But for right now, I'm just going to use SHA-1 and in parentheses and in quotes, I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. So that is encrypting our password. So the next thing is whether we are logged in. No. Pass in a value of 0. And our access level we're going to set to 1. And if I hit enter, add a semicolon, hit enter, this should enter this information into our table. If I hit enter, it does successfully get put in, and now I can use that select statement on my users table, and you can see that all my information is there. The one last piece that I'm going to show you is updating your table. And this is also going to use a where clause, so that way you can specify which record, which ID you're trying to update. And to update a record, we do update and then we pass in our table, so users, users. Then we use the set command, and set is going to take whatever fields we say, field equal to value, and it's just going to assign those fields that value. So I want to change my date of birth. So date of birth equal to, I'm just going to pass in date since I have a field, a table value here, or a text value. Actually, I'll keep it consistent, and I will just do a date format, comma, and then we're going to do our next field, and logged in, and I'm going to set that equal to 1. And this is where I'm going to use my where clause. So otherwise it would update every single record in the database, and we don't want, or in the table, and we don't want that. We just want to specify 1. So I'm going to do where ID is equal to 1. And the reason why I'm not wrapping this in quotes is because it's an integer value anyways. So I'm just going to pass that in just like that. And you'll see here we have logged in. I know this is kind of hard to read, but logged in is actually 0, and date of birth here is 1111 or 11111. And if I hit enter, my record's going to change, and if I select everything from my users, you will see now the 0 has changed to a 1, and the date of birth has changed to 9999. And that's pretty much it for MySQL. That's MySQL in a nutshell. I'm going to cover more in my videos that I do on creating intermediate programs with PHP, and you guys will probably learn quite a bit more there, and I'll try and explain it as I go through since I didn't do a full MySQL series. But I just want to give you a crash course on MySQL. If you guys liked this video, found it useful, if I went on too long, or if I don't care. If you guys didn't like the video, please tell me. I want to hear back from you guys. I mean, I don't care if you guys tell me I suck and I shouldn't be programming. It's just all good criticism anyways. So just tell me what I should change, and I'll do my best to make those changes and try and help you guys out. But make sure you subscribe, and stay tuned for my intermediate PHP series. That should be coming up in the next week or two, or at least I should start it. If not, it's probably going to be a month out or so, because I have some online courses that I'm going to be teaching, and those run for about 3 weeks to a month. So I got to take care of those, and then I can get back to this. But stay tuned for that, and hopefully you guys found this video useful.